Good morning, YouTube. What is everyone doing this morning? Northeast Ohio Sports Cards back for a little week that was video, and we are doing this live again. So, those of you watching on demand, if you hear me referencing chat, I have been trying to do these every Sunday morning. The last few weeks, that seems to be the best time, uh, just because there's not a lot of live sports on. I do not think I am that cool of a guy that you'd rather hang out with me than watch actual real life games. So that's why I've been choosing to do these on Sunday mornings. I know this is a little early, especially for some people on some different coasts, but my thought is to do them around now, because once football starts back up, people are going to be wanting to do, their morning football routine stuff. Um, and I also don't want to be competing against that. So if you guys can't make it, you can always watch it on demand afterwards. So I got a list of things to go over this morning that we will cover, and then we'll see what chat's up to. Good morning, Cardboard Max. Good morning, Adam. Um, and we'll see how this goes this morning. These usually run about 45 minutes to an hour, just depending on how lively chat is. So we'll see what is going on in the wonderful world of things. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm just posting this link around some various places, and then we will get started. All right. All right. So hopefully I'm coming through nice and loud and clear. Got the new mic setup working pretty good. I can adjust some things if I am too loud or too quiet, etc. So let's get into it. So what's been going on this week in the wonderful world? Oh, one last thing before we get it. Wait, I'll save that for later. Um, the first big thing, and this actually ended last night. There is a new record for 86 Fleer Jordan. An SGC 10 gold label sold last night for 420,000. Basically shattering the previous Jordan record for an 86 Fleer. Now, for those not familiar with SGC, they grade similar to a BGS scale where they have half grades. So there's, you can get a 9, you can get a 9.5, you can get a 10. Whereas PSA is basically PSA 8.5, 9. PSA does not give a 9.5, and then PSA has a 10. They have nothing above a 10. SGC and BGS both have 10 grades. BGS 10s are a lot harder to pull than an SGC 10, but BGS has what's called a black label, which is essentially a perfect card, or as close to perfect as you can get. SGC has the same, and that's what they assign with a gold label, and that's what this Jordan has. It's the only SGC 10 gold label Jordan in existence. And it broke the record. I've done a couple SGC subs. I've yet to pull a gold label. I've seen massive bulk orders of 2, 3, 4, 500 cards come back from them and have like one gold label in the entire lot, and that's on ultra modern stuff. So gold labels aren't easy. So probably rightfully deserved for that price. So we had that going on. The other big thing that's kind of happening this week is a Illusions basketball retail dropped. This is kind of one of those random sets that gets tossed under the rug, but it's a retail release. And as you guys are well aware, retail and basketball releases don't happen very often and are extremely difficult to track down when they are. The weird thing about Illusions is it's a Walmart exclusive. So you're not finding these at Target, or Meyer or any of that sort of stuff. This is a Walmart exclusive release. And I don't want to say they've done it out, but so most of the stuff when it hits, like Chronicles and Mosaic before that, usually blasters go for about, close to $100, 80 to $100, like right that first week of release. Then you see them start to tail down, and then they pick back up again. The thing with this is it came out and they basically started at 55 to $60. Um, and are slowly starting to backslide from there. So I don't know if it's just because Chronicles is also out at the same time right now, and there's just not a lot of talk about Illusions because it's a Walmart exclusive. But MSRP on these, I believe, on a Walmart shelf are a little higher. Blasters usually like 19.99, and I haven't seen these in person yet, and I really haven't tried to look that hard. Um, I believe I saw that these were going for like 22.99 or something, or 21.99. So they're even a few dollars more expensive on the shelf. And I have 130 point up here, and you could see they're barely cracking $40 a box, 45 to $40 a blaster box this morning. Here's one that actually went for 42.50. So the market is not all about this Illusions, and Chronicles, which is in week 2 of release, week 3 of release. Their stuff has come down dramatically as well, which this is normal. These started off at about $120 a blaster on eBay, like the first few days of release, and then have slowly come down. Chronicles, I'm using blasters as an example because they're the most readily available. Mega boxes are pretty tough to find and all this stuff. And same with fat packs are prettier, cellos, whatever you want to call them, are also pretty easy to find. But megas are always really tough to find on this stuff. So I'm just going to stick with blasters as a basis because everything kind of rotates around the same. These blaster box prices on Chronicles have basically followed the pattern that all these releases generally follow. They start at triple whatever retail price is, to higher, and then slowly tick down from there until you get to the point where it's about 2x. 2x tends to be the floor for this stuff. It'll level out around there, and then supplies will stop, or restocks will stop, and then it'll slowly start to creep back up again. Chronicles, it's kind of a weird product because it's basically just shoved with, I don't want to say junk, but it's like the leftovers. It's like Thanksgiving's on a Thursday. You had the prime course, that's Prism. Friday, the day after, is like the peak leftovers, that's Optic and Mosaic. And then Saturday and Sunday roll around and you're just kind of digging for whatever's left. That's Chronicles. They're the last of the leftovers from Thanksgiving dinner 4 days later, and you're just kind of shoving it in the microwave, and whatever you get out, that's what you get. And it's not terrible, but it's not Thursday or Friday Thanksgiving. Um, it's a lot of paper product. Now that being said, go look at last year's Chronicle stuff. Sealed blasters sell for a ton because the supply is all gone. It also got a boost from Luca being Luca. But long story short, what I'm getting at here is I think Chronicles is getting to the point price wise where if you're willing to wrap the money up for 3 months at minimum, it's a good point to start looking to buy it. If blasters, and I don't think that they will, if they drop below 2x, if you could get them for $30 to $40 a piece, and like I said, you're willing to tie the money up, I think it would be worth picking them up and sticking them in a closet for 3 months, and then start following the markets as they tick back up again. And they will tick back up again. It's sealed wax. Even with Zion and Jaws prices coming down and the basketball market cooling quite a bit, as we talked about in the last video on Thursday or Friday. Sealed wax is always the king. Um, and I just think this is reaching the point where it makes sense to maybe dive in and buy up some Chronicles. But once again, you need to be willing to understand that that money is going to be tied up. This is not going to be, it's going to be a quick flip because you're not holding it for years. I mean, you can hold it for years, but I'm more looking at this as like a 3 to 4, maybe 5 month thing. You buy it now at anywhere between $30 and $40 a blaster and hold on to it until like the start of next season. And if we see a dip lower, will depend on what happens with restocks. We don't know if we're getting restocks this week. They have been getting smaller. I think we probably get at least one more good week of restocks, maybe two. And as more supply hits the market becomes flooded and the prices may tick down lower. And I'm sure if you look around, if you made like a post buying all blasters at $35 a piece, you'll probably get some hits on it. And I think Illusions is going to be another interesting one to watch because it started at a price point very low on the secondary market. It immediately went to 2x. And I just don't know if the market can bear two retail releases like this at the same time. We've never seen this where retail releases are overlapping. It went from Prism late last fall to early winter. That completely left the market. Then Optic came out. Optic came in, completely left the market. Then Mosaic came out. Mosaic entered the market, left the market completely. There was like a 1 month dry spell. Then Chronicles came out. Chronicles is in midlife cycle, and now Illusions is hit too. So the retail market itself is just saturated with product right now. It's not great product because Illusions, I'm still trying to feel out exactly what Illusions wants to be. I don't think it has anywhere near the long-term staying power of a Optic or Prism or Mosaic or anything like that. But once again, if the price gets low enough, if you can get these blasters for between $30 and $40, specifically that $35 range, once again, if you're willing to tie the money up, I think it's a fairly safe investment. I don't know that they're going to get to Optic Mosaic level. Nothing's going to touch Prism level prices. So I don't know that it'll get up to Optic and Mosaic level of blasters, but go look. Like, let's look at what a Mosaic blaster is going for right now. Live internet. So here's Mosaic blasters, anywhere from 100 to 120 a pop. And what are we? When did Mosaic dry up? About 2 months ago? 3 months ago? I can't remember exactly. Time doesn't exist in 2020. It's just all one big old blur. So I don't see why Chronicles and Illusions doesn't follow the same track. Every other product has. If I flip this over to Optic, I think Optic are actually even more expensive because it's been out of stock a lot longer, but I haven't checked recently. Yeah, look at Optic blasters. 125, 160, 145, 123, 130, 125. So they go for a little bit more, but not a ton more. Do Chronicles and Illusions hit this price? I'm not sure, but do they get up to $80 a piece? Sure, I could easily. If you tell me in 3 months that Chronicle blasters are $80 a pop, $90 a pop, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. So if you could buy them for 30, hold on to them for a few months, I think you could easily double your money. And then if you want to hold it longer, you can. But if you wanted to get out of it right before next season starts, I think it's a pretty safe play. So I have also been hearing more rumors and scuttlebutts and other people running into. There was a couple of social media posts about people going into their Targets and Walmarts and not being able to find the card section anymore. And then talking to some employees and saying that their district manager has decided to no longer carry sports cards. We've kind of talked about this in previous weeks, as well as the retail game gets more and more crazy, that these stores aren't wanting to deal with it anymore. And I get it. I don't know that they make that much money off this stuff because they're just leasing the space. So if you spin this forward to a 2021 Prism retail cycle, which if you thought chasing retail with Chronicles was crazy, wait until Prism Basketball comes out, whenever it comes out next year or this coming fall. I don't, no one really knows right now because everything's weird. Uh, it's going to be wild. And just based off Chronicles, it already appears that a lot of these stores don't want to deal with it. And I could see it drastically shifting by the time Prism rolls around. That these stores are just like, you know what? Nope. This is not worth the hassle. This is not worth the headache for this retail stuff. People are harassing vendors, stealing it, going in the back rooms, the whole nine yards. It's the retail game is absolutely crazy. Let's get into some other things. Zion PSA 10 Prism, as you can see on the wonderful chart here, we've seemed to find the floor on Zion. This is in the market movers tools like I use most of the time, and I'm going back 90 days on this chart back to June 1st. Just to kind of show you a more long form view of Zion's pricing. So you could see it peaked up to about almost $900 right before the bubble started. Then he played like crap, and so did the Pelicans, and was eliminated. And it nosedived all the way down to about $630. It basically leveled out. This is mid June. I'm sorry, mid August. Once again, time in 2020. Floated right around 600 to 635. Dipped down a little bit. Dipped down again to 600. Got down to about 600, and then the market said, whoa, Zion 600, bye, bye, bye. Went up. Dipped back down again. Went sub 600, just barely. And then immediately shot up back up over to around that $630 mark. And you can see it's trending back down again. I think we have hit the Zion floor officially. It seems to be that his price is not going to dip below 600. Or if it is, it's not going to stay there for very long. 600 in his PSA 10 Prism, at least for now, appears to basically be the floor. You can see it's flirted with it a few times, and every time it does, it goes back up again. So it dipped back down and then went right back up again. So this low 600-ish seems to be the floor. And once again, with Zion, we'll be keeping an eye on his stuff all off season, just because I'm curious as to what his baseline price is. So if this is the case, I assume it's going to float right around there. Maybe it dips back below again. And like I said, it'll shoot back up again. And then I think what we see is whenever next season happens, approaches, the hype will start to build. And then it's going to basically flip this chart around again. And it's going to start going like this again. Slowly start building up. I don't think we get to 800 before the season starts unless, some Bane-like photos start circulating of him in preseason, or he comes out and drops some monster preseason lines or whatever. But I think it's going to stay like this for the next few months, and then it'll slowly turn into the first half of this chart where it's slowly doing little creep ups instead of little creep downs like this. So, but I think we've hit Zion's floor. I could be wrong. But for right now, the market doesn't want to let him dip below 600, at least for very long. So, next up, Donovan Mitchell. Let's talk about Donovan Mitchell. Baby Swaggo, you are correct. And that pullback started actually earlier this week. And it's been across not all sports, but the NBA's had the hardest hit. And I believe what's happening is, and this is normal, and this happens most of the time, the season's winding down now, and the numbers of players playing are narrowing, and the numbers of players not playing is widening. And people that aren't playing anymore, their prices tend to go down. Um, Now you're also seeing some pullback in players that are currently playing. Lucas Price has started to pull back, but that's because people are anticipating him leaving. The one that's mysterious to me, and I talked about this in the last video, so I didn't have a chart for it this morning, but I can pull one if we have to. Tatum's stuff has really taken a hit, specifically as Prism has really pulled back compared to some other stuff. So I don't know if it's just a little mini market correction on him, but not everyone currently playing is pulling back, but a lot of guys that have left are pulling back, which is natural because people want to invest and spend the money in people that they can watch play. So this is relatively normal. And actually, the next couple charts here are going to be guys that are trending the wrong direction, which, like I said, I believe is pretty normal. So first up, Donovan Mitchell. So they play today. If they win, they move on. If they lose, it's a game 7. This is essentially if you hold, and I'm talking about Mitchell's base PSA 10 Prism, but you can spin this forward for whatever Mitchell rookie card you're invested in, Optic, Silvers, whatever. You're basically gambling on the Jazz winning if you want to sell or not. Now, if you're in the Mitchell for the long term, then don't listen to anything I'm about to say. If you want to hold on to him for the next 5 years, cool. But if you got into Mitchell before the season restarted, he was one of the very trendy players that myself and about 75,000 other YouTube channels talked about. You know, when his PSA 10 Prism was around 300-ish bucks. If you bought in then, and this is why I like to talk about buying multiples, I would at least sell off, if I bought 4 of them, I would probably sell off 1 or 2 this morning or this afternoon. Um, Unless you think, if you're absolutely 100% sure they're going to win, and odds are they are because they only need to win 1 of the next 2, but you never know. Regardless, I would look to start, I would build your exit strategy for what you want to do with Donovan Mitchell in regards to getting out of him. The reason why I say that is let's look at his chart and let's compare it to 2 other players' charts that we've talked about a lot. So Mitchell's price, you could see right before the bubble was sub $300. This goes back to basically August 1st, right when games started up. He was at 315, creeped up, stayed flat, mid threes, high threes, almost 4. And then here, boom. And this is when he had the multiple 50-point games in a row and all that stuff. His stuff spiked up to almost $500, trended along up to 500, mid fives, dipped down a little bit because of the little pause in the season. I believe this is when they took their little 2-day break for protest, went down to 455, and is now rebounding slightly and is back to almost sub 500. Here's the thing. The Jazz, sorry, Jazz, are not winning the NBA title this year. I don't think so. It would be a long shot. If the Nuggets don't pull a comeback, they're most likely going to get eliminated next round. And the data shows that when these guys get eliminated, they lose almost all of this spike. So I could easily see this as let's just call it a $500 card, right? A $500 to a $550 card right now. Because if they win, he probably spikes back up again. And he's going to keep playing. If they win and you're holding a bunch of Mitchell and you do not want to hold Mitchell long term, and when I say long term, I mean through at least the end of next season. So at least a year to year and a half, you want to sell in the next 3 to 5 days because, excuse me, let me grab a drink real quick here, guys. Because let's look, and we've talked about these two players a bunch, at Devin Booker and Damian Lillard. Both these guys are good. Lillard's not as young, but are good young players, especially in Booker's case. Had amazing bubbles, had, in Lillard's case, a couple great playoff games, and then fell apart. So the pink line is Lillard, the blue line is Booker. So we could see both of them basically follow the identical pattern, just Booker's didn't get as high. So they were cruising along, spike up during the bubble games, both of them. You could see both right here creep up during the bubble games. Keep on going, keep on going. The bubble games stop, the playoffs start, and you could see Booker starts going down. Lillard starts the playoffs, goes bonkers, and then reality sets in, and we realize the Trailblazers aren't actually going to beat the Lakers. Drop down, he plays well again, levels out. They lose again. He gets hurt, and now look at these prices. So Lillard started pre bubble games as a PSA 10 at $950. He got to a peak of 3,000 for his PSA 10 Prism. If we look at today, it's at 1,200 and trending down. If I pulled up the 7-day graph, it is still shooting downwards. So this, if I could draw a line on here, all of this basically never happened. It's gone. Like that, it inflated up and went right back down again. Booker, we could see pre-bubble, $500 for his PSA 10. At peak, 1,500, and this was basically about when they were down to the last game to see if they could make the playoffs or not. They obviously didn't make it, and his price right now is down to $950. So it's still higher than what your entry point was, but once again, Booker also still trending down. For the most part, his is not as egregious. If I pull up a 7-day chart here, I thought he was still trending down. Come on, market movers. Sleepy this morning. Watching chart loading animations is fun. Okay, I don't know what that's doing, so we're going to let it do its thing. So my larger point here is that, to me, there is no reason why Donovan Mitchell is not going to follow the exact same thing. Yeah, he could have another another week or so of gains, assuming they win, and then he plays good in the next couple games. But if you try to time this market to sell at the exact perfect peak, you're going to get it wrong most of the time. And you could spin this out to, even if you don't have Donovan Mitchell, flip this out to anybody currently playing that you're invested in, unless you think they're going to win it all. But if they're on one of these fringier teams like the Jazz or the Nuggets, for example, I mean, they might get bounced because they're playing each other. But, you go over to the Eastern Conference is a little weird because I don't really know who's going to come out of the East. But regardless, unless you really think that team is going to win the NBA title, once we get through this round, start forming your exit strategy unless you want to hold these guys forever. Which, if that's the case, fine. But my gut tells me is you've probably made good money on them already in regards to what you're into them for. Come up with an exit strategy, and your time to sell is going to be in the next 5 to 10 days, unless you think they're going to win it all. And if you want to gamble on that, that's fine, because don't get me wrong, if Jimmy Butler, for example, goes and wins the NBA title, his stuff's going to hit an all-time new peak high price. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But these non-A-list megastars, so like I'm excluding your LeBrons, your Giannis's and stuff like that. I don't know that those are guys that I want to be holding for years and years on end. And there's a good chance that this could be the highest price their card value ever gets to. Now, do I think that's the case with Donovan Mitchell? Probably not. But if you're telling me that I bought it for $300 in July, can sell it for $500 in August, and probably rebuy it back again in a month for 350, why wouldn't I do that? I just don't see any reason why Mitchell's chart does not follow this same pattern. I don't know why Market Movers doesn't want to load that one. That same chart as Lillard and Booker are on, where they peak up and then they go back down again as their team exits. So, once again, Mitchell's the example that I'm using, but spin this forward to whoever you're into: Jimmy Butler, Jaylen Brown, who else? Westbrook. Tatum's a little bit of a different story. I wouldn't mind holding Tatum long term. In fact, I have some Tatum. I may look to sell one of them. I have two Tatum PSA 10s of varying shapes and sizes. I may look to sell off one of them over the next couple weeks, depending on what they do. But the base PSA 10 Prism, I will probably hold on to. I have a couple select PSA 10s and some other Tatum stuff that I would look to move. But as these playoffs wind down, the field narrows, and the guys that leave, their prices tank. Now, that being said, the opposite side is true. These guys leaving the playoffs, in a couple weeks, we want to be paying attention to them, because if it's guys that we really like, that's the time to buy. These guys are going to level off. They're going to dip down, level off. And when you see that level off period, that's when you want to start buying. So if you're a big believer in Devin Booker, in the next week or so here, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, is going to be the time to buy Devin Booker again, because he's going to flatten out and then slowly start to creep back upwards to the beginning of next season. Now, I think these guys relatively trend down to stay flat until we get an announcement on when next season actually starts. That is still up for debate. All we know is it's not going to be December 1st. That day has already been thrown out. A lot of people don't realize that yet, but the NBA season is not coming back December 1st. It'll probably be Christmas at the absolute earliest, and maybe even into January, February. They have already stated they want fans in arenas, and to get fans in arenas, that is not going to happen December 1st, and they have CBA stuff to figure out. I think this stuff basically trends down, and then once we have a firm date for when basketball is coming back, then things will slowly start to pick back up again. So that is my playoff selling guys talk. But if, like I said, if you're into these guys, whoever it is, Bam, Butler, Mitchell, any of these remaining guys, and it's had this big spike already, unless you want to hold, start looking for your exit strategy. Go look at, after Lillard got eliminated, the posts on social media of want to sell Damian Lillard PSA 10 Prism, want to sell Damian Lillard PSA 10 Prism, and every other guy was undercutting each other by $50 or whatever the case might be. It happens fast. These guys go down, they go up fast and they go down fast. So, just keep that in mind, and lock in those profits do it on this part of the chart, on the upswing. Don't wait for it to hit the absolute peak. If you made good money on a card, don't be afraid to sell some of them off. I see people get burned all the time because they think it's going to keep going up forever, and that's not the case. Let's transition over to some football and baseball really quick, and then we'll see what I've been ignoring chat because I get distracted by you guys. You guys are always talking about good stuff. So I want to get through these charts, and then I will get into whatever questions you guys have. Just checking chat real quick just to make sure nothing too crazy is going on. Good to see that you're awake, Vicious Dad, even this early in the morning. I know I put you to sleep sometimes. Okay, cool. All right, just checking to see what chat's talking about. Let's talk about football really quick. The football market is picking up steam. I pulled just one example here, but I could have picked many. This is McCaffrey's 2017 PSA 10 Prism. This is a quote unquote Prism Silver, because in 2017 there was no base cards. Um, it's up 25% on the week, and most football stuff is climbing. What is happening, or what we have talked about in the last few weeks, is happening, where running back and wide receiver prices are starting to go crazy, whereas quarterback prices were already crazy. This is kind of unprecedented in the football market. And like we've talked about in many other videos, I believe this is all the new money, quote unquote, flowing into the football market and inflating these positions that we don't normally see go up. Normally, running backs and wide receivers prices are relatively cheap compared to quarterbacks. The market is now shifting away from that. And I say this every single time I talk about football: do not hold these running backs for long term. If you make 2x, 3x, whatever on your initial investment, and it is a running back, sell it. There are only one or two guys that are truly legendary at any one given time on running backs. These guys get hurt so frequently and so often. In this new market that we were in, Damian Lillard was just ripping off 50-point games against the Lakers or whatever in the playoffs. He got eliminated. He didn't even get hurt, got eliminated, and his prices went from 3,000 to 1,000 in the blink of an eye. What do you think is going to happen if Christian McCaffrey gets an MCL sprain and misses 5 weeks? Um, and these guys get the crap kicked out of them. A hamstring injury in football, which is common, and I think is going to be more common because camps are so screwed up. A guy's out 3 to 6 weeks, depending on what it is, or like an ankle sprain or something. Their prices are going to nosedive. So if you got into these guys preseason and you've been buying up football early, or even if you're buying it up now, and these guys have a couple of good games, to me, football is the ultimate quick flip unless it's a quarterback. I just think this market's going to jump up and down like crazy, and the potential to lose your butt is going to be far greater in football than any of these other sports, at least on the quick side of things. I'm not talking about buying a guy and holding him for 3 to 5 years. I'm talking about movements within seasons. So I do not want to be holding running backs for long term. I love Saquon Barkley. I think he's one of the best, funnest players to watch. Same with Christian McCaffrey. If I make 2 to 3x on one of his cards, I'm selling it. Wide receivers are a little different story. For me personally, the money that I'm spending on football right now is on wideouts. They could get hurt too, and their market could be just as crazy, but their price point, their entry point is a lot cheaper right now, it seems like. And they have less potential things to go sideways with them. All the young wide receivers from last year, their prices are going nuts. DK Metcalf, Marquise Brown, AJ Brown, and then older legends as well are starting to spike up and go crazy. But I think the football market is going to be absolutely insane. Like if one of these guys goes off on a Sunday, especially in a primetime game, one of these wide receivers catches 10 passes for 175 yards, I think their prices are going to go nuts. I think I've talked about it before on the channel, Star Stock. If you're not messing around on Star Stock, I would look into it. I think Star Stock is built for the football season for these quick flips. I would recommend throwing $20 on Star Stock and go have some fun. It is an interesting site. I did a video. There's a video review on my channel talking about Star Stock, so I would go look for that if you guys haven't checked it out yet. But football prices are going nuts. Let's hop over and talk about baseball, and then we will wrap things up here depending on what chat's talking about. A lot of baseball cards are going a little wonky right now. An interesting one here is Ronald Acuna Jr. He was getting hyped up before the season started, had a slow start. His prices were dipping a little bit, and then he got hurt with a wrist injury, wrist discomfort, baseball injury. and his prices went way down. Right before he came back, he got pumped a little bit, and his stuff got basically too low, and people were buying him up, myself included. I was buying his this card right here. Excuse me, his Topps Chrome for under $100 a piece. They dipped down to around 90-ish. You could get them with various shipping and everything, but you could get them between $90 and $100 shipped. I bought about 3 or 4 of them, and his prices have begun to rebound, specifically this Chrome. Now, where this is interesting is his Chrome is up 44%, and this is over the last 7 days. It went from around that $100 price point I was talking about to up to $140. Now, the intriguing thing here is his other cards have not moved yet, at least that much. His Chrome update is actually down 5% on the week, and his Topps update paper, I'm not talking about the bat down from regular Topps, I think it is, because it's super short print and they're like $2,000 to $3,000. But his regular, what would be basically his flagship rookie, well, his bat downs essentially, I guess, is his flagship rookie, but this one's an extremely popular one. His at bat in blue jersey, God, baseball cards are so confusing, is actually down 5% on the week, at around 200. So this particular card is gaining steam, but his other stuff isn't. Now, he's come back and started relatively slow, so there is some risk here. But if he catches fire at all, this card will go nuts. At one point in time during this season, this was a $300 card. So if you're into dabbling in baseball and you believe in Acuna, this wouldn't be a bad card to go after, and for a lesser extent, this one. His Topps Chrome, I just thought at sub $100, this was way too cheap. So I bought them up. I think where they're at now, I think most of the value's probably gone out of it already. But I think this one has some potential if you're into dabbling in the baseball. And one last thing, and speaking of baseball, this is a long-term buy and hold guy that I stumbled across in doing research. Yordan Alvarez, his 2020 Topps base paper is just getting hammered. This is 14 days. I pulled a 14-day chart on this one. He is down almost 50%. He started at 100 and is down to 55, down that almost 46%. He basically had a knee injury almost immediately to the season starting, or not the season starting, but within the last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he got announced that he was having knee problems and I think is essentially done for this shortened season. But if we look at let's look at his 90-day chart. Now it did spike way up. This is when he first came back, but you could see even pre this spike, it was in the high 70s to 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And now it's trending way down to the 50s. And I see this card going lower. And this isn't necessarily the specific card I'm talking about buying. I have switched my focus to Chrome when it comes to baseball. So I don't necessarily want to buy this. I'm looking at Yordan as a long-term play. I want to buy now and hold until next April when the hype for next season starts. So instead, and the only reason I don't have the specific card up is because it's not in Market Movers yet, because the set just came out. I am looking at his Topps Chrome, which just released the last month or so, buying those up raw and sending them in to get graded. If I buy those now, if I spend the month of September acquiring Jordans and Chromes, send them in the PSA on an economy order at $20 a card, I'll get them back in January, February, depending on when I send them. and I'm going to be perfectly set up to sell those in March. And what's going to happen is he's going to level out and dip down because everyone's going to forget about him. And then next March is going to roll around and he's going to be the poster child for every talking head video of, oh, Jordan stuff's too cheap. Buy into him. Da 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 da. His price should be this. Um, and his stuff's going to go up. And then if you want to hold him into the season, great. Or at that point, you could probably lock in a decent return, sell some of them off, and then hold the rest in the season on a free roll. Which, if you guys have listened to any of my videos, you know that's what I like to do when it comes to this stuff. And I am specifically targeting not his chrome base, but his chrome refractors. They are very cheap. I bought some refractors yesterday of him for 10 to 15 bucks a piece raw in chrome. And the chrome cards grade a lot easier. So it's a lot easier to pull 10s on chromes as long as the surfaces are good. You don't have to worry about the corners as much as you do on paper. So I'm not as afraid to buy those raw off eBay because I know chrome cards just tend to hold up a little bit better in packs than paper do. Paper are a nightmare to grade. The corners ding so easy on paper cards. So that's kind of my long-term play. His prices have just cratered the last week or two, and I'm looking to buy him up raw chromes, grade them, and then sell them next March or April when the hype for next season builds. Um, I know that the Astros have a taint about them, but the further we get away from that, the more people are going to forget about it. And he's just one of the best young players in the league. So, um, those are the main things I wanted to get through. So let's pop on over. And before we get in the chat, and anyone that watches my stuff knows I always forget the YouTube crap. So I made myself a note and put it on my desk that says YouTube nonsense because usually I completely forget to talk about it. We are almost at 650 subs. So if you enjoy any of the content that I'm doing and you're not subscribed, and judging by the metrics, half of you are, half of you aren't. So the half of you that aren't, click the sub button. And then if you like what I'm doing, click the little like button. If you don't like what I'm doing, hit the dislike button, but hit it twice to give me 2 dislikes, not 1. Enough with the YouTube nonsense. I hate talking about this crap, but it's what grows the channel, so I have to at least say that I mentioned it. Let's see what is going on in chat. Baby Swaggo, Porzingis is another one. His prices have tanked. Mike Evans, both the Buccaneers stuff is going crazy for sure. Yes, the Padres are on fire, Curtis. Tatis and Machado stuff is going absolutely bonkers right now. I agree, Adam. Mosaic football, the hunt is going to be wild because of the hype from Mosaic basketball. I'll be curious to see how the football market handles Mosaic football. I feel like that design is more catered towards the NBA market, if that makes sense. So I'll be interested to see how the parallels and stuff hold up when it comes to football, but I think it'll do pretty well. Anything in the retail environment does really good. So, thank you, Step Back. I appreciate that. I just listened to your podcast from last night, this morning. I have some stuff we should talk about off that. If you haven't, check out Step Back Sports uh, latest podcast that he posted last night. It's Above the Rim, I think. I put in whatever they search for Step Back. He essentially talked about uh, the price of current rookies versus the price of legends and stars. And like, why are we spending X amount of dollars on a Luca Prism when Scottie Pippen, who's won multiple championships, is way cheaper? My base take on that is guys want to spend money on people that they can watch play still. And when we talk about investing in this stuff, I think most people talk about investing in the short term, not holding this stuff until they retire to pay for kids' college. Like I'll use my Jordan example for to explain this further. I'm talking about buying up Jordan, but I'm also talking about selling Jordan within the next 6 to 8 months. And I think that's how, when myself included, these talking heads get on and show charts and talk about buying these guys or whatever. I don't think, at least myself personally, I'm not considering holding many of these players for longer than a year in most cases. Um, the few exceptions to that would be Luka and Giannis and maybe Tatum and LeBron, obviously, but of the younger crop of NBA players. Um, but I think hopefully most of the people talking about this, like the Jordan, I'm talking about buying it, but I'm also talking about the exit strategy. I'm not talking about buying Jordan and save them until your kids go to college. I'm talking about buying Jordan, grade it, and sell it by next April. Um, Same with a lot of these basketball guys, like Donovan Mitchell. We were talking about buying Donovan Mitchell before the playoffs started. He was on my video for one of the guys to consider looking at pre the bubble games, and now I'm saying to sell him because I think he's in the upswing of his peak value, and I think it's time to get out. And I think you should look at that regardless of what you're buying, whether it's Step Back likes to buy the legends, or if you're buying these modern guys. Whatever you're spending money on, you should know what your exit strategy is or when you want to get out of it. If I buy a Luca, I'm buying a Luca to probably hold for 3 to 10 years. Who knows? It's so hard to predict this stuff so far into the future. But I go into the mindset of a Luca purchase that I'm not going to be selling this anytime soon. I go into a Jordan Alvarez purchase with a plan of buy it now because this stuff's at the floor because he got hurt and everyone forgot about him. Grade it, and my goal is to move out of him by um, the time next season starts. Same with those Acuñas that I bought, those Topps Chrome. I bought those a couple weeks ago. I'm going to tell you right now, if they keep creeping up, they're at 140ish. If they hit above 150, I think I bought 3 of them. I would sell 2 of them for $300 and keep the third. And that was kind of my plan going in. That's why I bought multiples. Is if he catches fire, is to sell off 2 of them and then free roll the third for a long term hold. I have 2 Juan Soto PSA 10 Topps updates that I got for around $200. I will probably look to sell those in the playoffs. I'm not looking to hold. I probably like to sell 1 of them. I wouldn't mind having 1 Soto to hold long term, but I really wish I bought the Chrome. So, da, 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 da. Yeah, I agree. Step back. A lot of guys um, don't. All they do is talk about buying. They don't talk about the out. Um, and I think considering the out is important. You need to have your exit strategy. Like I've been buying up AJ Brown for the Titans. I adore AJ Brown. I just love the dude. I think he's going to be a beast. Um, I'm buying to sell him. I'm buying him now to sell him the first time he has a couple big games. I'm not. I say invest in AJ Brown. It's all short term, and I think most of this stuff in the modern sports card markets, uh, everyone's talking about it in the short term. I don't think anyone's talking about this in the long term, but I do agree with what you're saying. Step back. Most of these guys, most of the talking heads, usually just say buy, 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 buy. They don't say when to sell, or they don't, lay out a plan. And I think that's important with whatever you're buying or selling. Um, is have an exit, always have an exit strategy to get out of this stuff. So, anything else from chat? We've been going for about an hour. So I'd like to wrap this up pretty soon. So, do you guys have anything else in chat that you would like to discuss this morning? Otherwise, I'll get you the hell out of here and get you off to this your Sunday. I have grass that I need to cut. Exciting stuff here at the Neo household. I'm going to take a drink of my water really quick and see what else chat has to talk about. if anything. Chat has gone silent on me in my time of need. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap things up then. Big takeaways is keep an eye out if you want to, if you got money laying around and you're willing to tie it up for a little bit. Chronicles and Illusions Retail, I think, is going to be a really good buy. Probably this week or next. I think it's going to hit its absolute floor. Like I said, if you're willing to tie that money up for about 3 months, I think now is the time. Nun Prism. Just curious, but if you got no, I don't really have to go. I just if you guys don't have anything, I've gotten through the content that I wanted to get through. So I kind of leave it up to you guys now to kind of steer things. Nun Prism. I unless you think the Heat are winning the Eastern Conference Finals, I think I would wait on the Nun Prism to buy it. Now, if you're a believer in the Heat, and this is where the sports card market has essentially turned into gambling. Because if you think the Heat are going to win the NBA championship, then you should be buying the Nun Prism now. And essentially, you're betting on that because it'll go higher the longer that they go. If you don't think the Heat are going to get out of the next round or the Eastern Conference Finals, then odds are the Nun Prism is probably going to go down. One, because of that, and also more Chronicles is hitting the market, so more Nun Prisms are hitting the markets because that's an update card from Chronicles. So if you're looking to load up on Nun Prisms, I would wait till after they get bounced from the playoffs, unless you think they're winning the whole thing. First year Prism to first year Optic. I do not think that will close the gap. Prism is king. Prism has always been king, and I do not see that changing. I think first year Optic will get a little bounce because it's first year Optic, but first year Optic is never going to be first year Prism. Card currency, what is up? You got in just at the end. Yeah, I would necessarily be selling none. If I pack pulled none today, out of say I was ripping Chronicles and I ripped a Nun Prism, I would send it in for grading if it looked good. There's a decent chance that Nun's at his. Nah, he's not at his peak price. But if I ripped a Nun Prism, I would not sell it. I would grade it. I would grade it and actually sell it before next season starts. Excuse me. I think the Prism update Durant is. If I ripped one, once again, I would grade it. If I was buying them, I don't know what the price is doing on that. Most of that Chronicle stuff was all trending down. I would wait a little bit longer, buy them, and grade them, and look to sell them during next year's hype for the Nets. All of those first year whatever cards, like the LeBron and stuff, and I've talked about this before. I really think if I had that first year LeBron Lakers crap, I would really look to sell that over the next couple weeks. Once again, this comes down to the whole sports betting thing and having exit strategies for this stuff. The LeBron 19 Prism is a perfect example of this. The LeBron 19 Prism, first Lakers rookie, whatever you want to call it, I truly believe most of the value of that card is tied up in the expectation that people think they're going to win the championship. That being said, where this turns essentially into gambling or sports betting is if you think they win the championship, that card price probably goes ridiculous. If you don't think they're going to win the championship, the second they get eliminated, I think that card takes one of the biggest hits out of all the LeBron stuff. I think the bottom falls out of that card. I don't think it's going to be worthless, but I think it's going to come down 20, 30, 40%. Based off what I've seen, can the Lakers win an NBA title? Absolutely. They have LeBron James. I'm never going to count him out. But this goes into what I was saying earlier is don't try to time the peak of the market on this crap. don't be afraid to sell it on the upswing, not on the peak. So I would start, if I had a large position in LeBron Lakers stuff, I'm going to start to whittle more and more of that off the later each series goes. So I already, meet myself personally, I sold a small portion off during the Blazers series. Um, I just listed another portion earlier this week, and this is not high end stuff. I'm talking about like optic 2019 20 inserts, like 321s and that sort of stuff. Um, the next batch. Sorry, I'm not looking at the mic, so sound might be a little bit weird. 1 second, guys. Uh, and I don't have a ton of this LeBron stuff. I have, and oh, please, SGC gods, I know that I have cursed you. Please get my 15-day order from May 26th back to me in the next couple weeks. There's a video of this submission preview on the YouTube channel. It's one of the first videos I ever did. I sent a bunch of Mosaic LeBron stuff to SGC on a 15-day, thinking I would get it back relatively soon. When I submitted it, because I didn't realize they were backed up at the time, of like Jam Master variations, MVP variations, base LeBron variations. There's about 9 or 10 cards in that submission, all of Mosaic, varying degrees of silvers and greens and all that stuff from all the Mosaic that I ripped. I would love to get that stuff back in the next couple weeks before they get eliminated or before the playoffs wrap up. Please, SGC, grade that. I actually reached out to them and they said the estimate that they gave me was sometime next month. So I don't know if that'll be September 2nd or September 22nd. But like I just moved a big lot of LeBron base nonsense. The next thing that I will look to post probably in the middle of this round, and I know Step Back and a lot of the guys that I talk to hate selling stuff at auction. I really think in general, I believe that they are correct. You should sell like your nice graded stuff at buy it now / best offer. But I think these large low dollar lots, and I'll show you an example here on the old camera. Like I have this LeBron Mosaic stuff. It's just base cards. It's nothing crazy. These MVP inserts, these will to wins, these give and goes, stuff like this, got games, nothing crazy. Those are going to be things that I'm going to throw up on a 7-day auction and just let it ride. If he starts playing well and they go crazy, then this stuff explodes versus trying to sit and price all this stuff out and come up with a decent lot price for it. So this is the next group of LeBron stuff I'm probably going to look to sell off. And then I have, I don't really have anything crazy high end. I have like a stack of his My House base inserts. Once again, I'll probably look to list these, assuming they play well next series, towards the tail end of next series. Same like I got this Hollow Winter Stays, and I only have one base Prism of him. I'll probably look to sell that next round as well, or during next round. And then my best LeBron quote unquote Lakers stuff will be the SGC order that's out there, and then I have the My House SGC 10 Hollow that came back in my last SGC order. I would probably I actually pulled this off eBay. This is one I'm gonna hold to see if they make the finals, because I think this is a card that could astronomically go up if they make the finals. So I'm gonna lock the profit in on this lower end stuff, and save some of those bigger cards for later in the playoffs. So let's get caught back up with chats. This is going back. Card currency select in theory should jump Prism due to print run. The problem with that is Select's a hobby only product, so most people don't even know Select exists. As sad as it sounds, I really love Select. I Select's one of the first things I look to go buy because of that reason. The pop reports are a lot lower on Select, but I honestly think with Select being a hobby only product and Select confuses people because there's 3 base cards in every set. There's a concourse, a premier, and a courtside or a field level if it's football. Um, the field level and courtsides get all the buzz. The concourse and premier usually sell for the same amount of money, and it drives me nuts. But I do think Select is one of the best values in the hobby in general, regardless of sport. I really like Select, um, but it just doesn't get the buzz because it's a hobby only product. The non retail products just do not seem to hold long term value. So, do, 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 do. I think Optic, a lot of the value in Optic, honestly, and I'll tell you this is the case. I am a sucker for the rated rookie logo. I am an absolute sucker for the rated rookie logo. Sorry for those of you watching on demand. I am just getting caught up with chat because I fell way behind. I am basically caught up with chat, and we are going to look to get out of here pretty quick. Um, First year Mosaic stuff. Remember this. This is the first official release of Mosaic. There are actually technically Mosaic cards prior to this. It was a subset of Prism in previous years. Um, the thing with Mosaic is it's love it or hate it. People either absolutely love Mosaic or they despise the design of Mosaic. There is no in between. I've yet to find someone that is mediocre on Mosaic. They either adore it or they despise it, and there really doesn't seem to be an in between on that. So, but all right, we're gonna get out of here. I'm gonna hit the YouTube nonsense one last time. If you like what I'm doing, hit the subscribe button. If you really like what I'm doing, hit the like button. If you don't like what I'm doing, hit the down vote button 2 times. Uh, Share the channel, all that nonsense. We were almost at 650 subs, so let's see if we can crank that up to 700 pretty quick here. Well on our road to the big milestone of 1,000. Once again, I hate talking about the YouTube crap, and I usually forget it. I already threw my note away. So, you guys have a good Sunday. Basketball games are back. And let's see what happens today. Unfortunately, KP is done. I was hoping the Mavs would be able to pull the upset, but it's going to take a lot now. Um, don't be surprised. Lucas prices are already trending down. Don't be surprised if they go lower. That is normal. Don't freak out on him. He's a long term hold to me. But you guys have a great Sunday. Go do something fun today. At least in Northeast Ohio, it is a gorgeous morning. Feels like fall. There's a Christmas in the air. It's almost my favorite time of year. I love a cool, crisp morning. So you guys have a great day, and we will catch you guys on the next one. I am not sure what the next video is going to be yet. Maybe a PSA submission preview. I am getting that's what my desk is a mess here because I'm getting ready to submit some stuff to PSA. So PSA submission preview might be the next video. We'll see. But you guys have a great day. We will catch you on the next one, and peace.